Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2018 and what will be a vastly increased podcast program here on eKardingNews.com. Of course, part of the new EKN Radio Network, which will be launching here in January. My name is Rob Howden, and I'm joined, as always, by David Cole as we begin what is episode number 13 of the EKN Debrief. Now, last year, this was kind of our primary podcast that we used where we talked about what was going on in the sport. David and I would go through some of the top stories on the website. We talk about Operation Grassroots. We'd look at some race reports, event calendar, that kind of thing. We just really covered a lot of stuff. With the EKN Radio Network now, we're expanding what we're going to be doing. There's going to be different podcasts, different shows. We've already had an Operation Grassroots. You're going to see the Industry Insider come as well. We'll discuss the sport with some of the top people in the industry. We're going to have a kind of in-conversation interview series as well. A lot of different shows coming. So that gives us the opportunity to kind of evolve the debrief. Not so much evolve, but even tighten the focus, if you will. Well, we're actually going to debrief. We're going to pick the event that we were just at. David, of course, being at the WK Manufacturers Cup event as part of WK Kart Week in Daytona over the Christmas holidays. That'll be the focus for today. So throughout the season, in the 20 to 25, 26 races that David and I attend this year, that'll be part of the EKN Trackside Live Tour. We will try to get right back into the office and kind of sit down and debrief what happened on the weekend, what we saw in terms of on track. We'll talk about the racing itself. If there was some kind of controversy, we'll look at that. But we'll just kind of debrief the weekend for you. If you weren't able to be there, we're going to be able to kind of bring you up close and personal to what happened at the racetrack. This week's show is being presented by Cartlift, American-made one-man motorized and manual cart lift stands, as well as traditional cart stands and stackers. Cartlift, handcrafted by carters for carters in the USA. Well, David, I've rambled on enough to start off 2018. You're the one that was in the trenches. I think most people would have said, wow, I'm so jealous. You go down to Florida, it's nice and warm. Obviously, it's unbelievably chilly up here in the north where you are in Michigan. Of course, myself here in Ontario, Canada. You didn't get that nice warm weather that you normally had, did you?
No, the trip to the airport was freezing cold. I mean, talking like below zero temperatures. And thankfully, when we arrived that move-in day, it was at least comfortable, 60-degree weather that you kind of hope for in Florida. But the rest of the event was a bit chilly.
Well, they had that kind of front coming through from the Gulf side that was super cold. And I know that when I tuned in to listen to the EKN live broadcast with you and Eric, the first thing, I heard, and of course we saw it in your photography as well, was the fact that you actually got some rain. And cold weather is cold weather. You can bundle up. When it comes with that rain and moisture, man, it just bites right through you. I wasn't quite as jealous once I saw what you guys were dealing with come race day.
No, I mean, the opening day, the move-in and practice day, it was comfortable weather, so that was nice. But after practice that night, I woke up the next day expecting to go to the racetrack. I was actually going to stop by the road racing part, but the ground was soaking wet, so we had the rain move in. So everything started out day one with wet weather conditions. Road racing wasn't going on, and they delayed things on the dirt track. So the sprint track, they were all on rain tires all the way up through almost through qualifying. So it was definitely a change. And that whole first day was just cold, windy, cloudy. I mean, there was no sun peeking through any clouds. That was kind of the trouble. And that was not the typical Florida weather we were hoping for.
Let's talk a little bit about the event itself, David. If there's obviously some people around the country that maybe are not totally familiar with WK Kart Week, it really is, now that we don't have the old North American Karting Championships we used to have at Charlotte back in the day with the Euro guys coming over, this really is the most unique and diverse karting event that we have in the sport here in North America. Right? You've got road race, you've got sprint, and you've got dirt. It really is a fantastic event. So diverse and at just an amazing facility as well.
Well, anytime you talk Daytona, you pique the interest of any type of racer or anybody who loves speed. Daytona has been, as a destination for a lot of people, whether it be karting or sports cars or any type of motorsports, even bikes. So Daytona is definitely a destination people want to go to. And with the Daytona Kart Week, we have the three unique events. You have the sprint track inside NASCAR 3 and 4, where I spent the majority of my time there. You have the road racing, which goes around the sports car course, which utilizes a lot of the high banks. And that was kind of the catalyst for racing at Daytona back in the 70s. That was the only event there at the time. And then they added the dirt oval a few years, maybe a decade ago, somewhere maybe around there. And so now they've had the dirt world championships there. And so you get all three different aspects of the sport: oval, road racing, and sprint. And it's three completely different worlds. It's funny to go from one paddock to another because you just, especially, so you go around the oval and all you smell are different fumes from all these different trailers and all the tire prepping and cutting going on. And then you go to the road racing and it's different fumes there, but it's got to get more relaxed, everybody's just kind of, chilling, relaxing, and having a good time just being at the Daytona International Speedway. And then you go to the sprint side where it's everybody's bundled up and everybody's all bunkered in, and nobody comes in this tent, and nobody's allowed in that tent, and it's very competitive type atmosphere. But you still have the camaraderie. I mean, it's not a lot of. There's still camaraderie no matter where you go, no matter what paddock you're in. It just each has its own distinct uniqueness.
Yeah, there is a different culture. I agree with you. I had time. I actually raced in the dirt component of Kart Week back in the early 2000s, and as you mentioned, at a municipal stadium, it was a dirt track out there. Actually, I think it was like a seashell track, essentially what the track was. But once Daytona built the new flat track just outside, I think it's turn 1, I believe, somewhere around turn 1, there's a flat track. So they were able to bring the dirt component right there as well. Everything nice and close. And as you said, David, you could essentially start at the dirt track, walk under, go through the sprint track, and then go into the road race paddock. And it would be, like you said, 3 completely different worlds, different mindsets, different cultures, different speed in which things happen at the track as well. And you're right. It's such a different opportunity. Let's focus the debrief though, because this is the kind of the focus of what we're looking at. It is the Manufacturers Cup event. That's where, as you said, you spent most of your time. We had an EKN live broadcast of all the action as well there. Let's start first and foremost with the entry numbers. That's something I think anybody looks at when we talk about any event these days is who went, how many guys were there. And, back in the day when things were maybe a bit stronger with WK and maybe the sport on the whole, you got some pretty massive numbers. But to credit to the WKA, they've shrunk down the amount of classes on track. People are getting more track time. There's not the 20 classes a day kind of thing, Dave. And at over 250 entries a day, pretty impressive way to start the season for Manufacturers Cup.
Yeah, the number is very similar to what we had last year. We kind of look at it, and it's not what it used to be where guys were running 5-6 classes over 3 days, because again, when it first moved to Daytona from Jacksonville, it was a 3-day event plus a practice day. So guys were able to kind of spread themselves out a little bit more. And there are obviously a little bit more options. I mean, cadets had 3 different engine packages they could run at one time. So guys are running 6 classes. So it was a bit busy for people, and the paddock was a little bit more full because you had to have more space for all those carts, and you don't see a lot of people doing double duty anymore so much. We do see that a little bit more through the WK program, but just not as much as it used to be. But overall, I mean, the numbers were pretty strong. The IME categories were the strongest, obviously, with 40 in both senior and junior, with both strong roster of drivers, guys that have been on the national level for a number of years now. And so it was a very competitive field in both senior and junior. But the growth is in the mini category. We're seeing a lot of the micro guys graduate now into the 10 to 12 age range now. So we had 45 in the mini Swift, which was the highest category of the weekend.
That's awesome to be able to see. And we talk about this all the time, Dave. When you have 45 in mini, you're just going to have those guys going in at X30 junior, whatever the junior category is. Those guys are going to move up, so that bodes well for the future of the series for sure. And I think you said 22 in micros, what I have down for the notes that you gave to me, dude. When you've got 3 of your categories over 40, that's a pretty solid program. Obviously, the Miami package really doing well in the WK Manufacturers Cup, but when you put 40 guys on that racetrack, that just does it not just pump the buzz up because you get that many guys on the track? You can't help but get excited about the event in front of you.
Without a doubt, but it also, it amps up the atmosphere a little bit because you guys are a little bit more intense, and we're talking kids. These are again 10 to 12-year-olds. I mean, yeah, a lot of them have their heads on their shoulders and they're pretty good, but there's still kids that are learning. So it's kind of a crazy little bit of an atmosphere out there on track. But for the most part, the minis kept it clean. There wasn't too many issues. The junior kids were probably a little bit more erotic. Or not erotic, but erratic. Yeah,
not erotic.
Erratic. Sorry. But I think when you have those bigger field sizes, you kind of tend to see that a little bit more.
Yeah. What about, and I think one of the talking points now is obviously the Yamaha contingent and where the Yamaha is going to fit into WKA. We're seeing it, I believe, getting dropped from the USPKS this year in favor of the IME KA100. Can you give our listeners kind of an overview of your thoughts on what you saw at Daytona in terms of those 2 engine packages?
Well, it was good to see the sportsman class get back to where it was last year, which was 20. We ended up with actually one more, so 23. We saw that the numbers dropped down as the season went on in 2017. So to see it start at 23 again kind of helps, but it's another thing where we're going to have to gauge how it looks throughout the year because, hey, they may have just went to Daytona and not doing the whole season. So you look at junior, Yamaha Junior was probably one of the most competitive categories we had throughout the 2017 season. And it was probably one of the best racing we saw throughout the year too. It was fun to watch, but again, some of those guys have graduated now to the senior ranks. So some of those have left, but we still saw 21 drivers, which is a solid number. And it was pretty competitive there too. We saw a couple drivers get away, but overall, I mean, there were probably, I would say, anywhere between 8 to 10 drivers who had a shot of winning. And anytime you have a field that tight, that's a good field. Senior wise, again, I think overall, when you look at the Yamaha package, it's still more of a regional and local program. I mean, some guys have had the same engine for maybe a decade. You just don't see that with the IME product, especially with the introduction of the first Leopard and then the second Leopard and now the X30, where the engines just don't seem to last that long. Where the Yamaha, you kind of can make it last that long. So I think the Yamaha right now, and it's kind of what the WK is. It still kind of has that amateur type status where it's for the club and regional and national guys. It's for everybody. So that's kind of what the Yamaha class has done. I think it's going to make it through the 2018 season. But again, I think come maybe June, July, and August, we'll kind of have to look and see where they're at. And I think WK is going to have to make a choice of continuing to support it or somehow manipulate it to where it's only a club and regional engine package.
Yeah, that'll be something we're going to be watching for, most definitely. All right, folks, stay with us. We're just getting started with episode number 13 of the EKN Debrief, our first here in 2018. We're glad to have you with us. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Are you ready to start making money from winning races? Are you a club racer? Do you run a regional series? Are you focused on national events? It doesn't really matter, because you're all eligible to start cashing in on your performances. Alpha Kart USA, the American importer of the Alpha Kart chassis, is changing the game with their new $1.5 million contingency purse program. That's right, we're going to pay out up to $1.5 million. Win a race, win money. Cold, hard cash. Buy a new Alpha Kart Tiger 40 or Storm Evo along with a team suit from Dams Inc. and Alpha Kart USA, and you'll set yourself up to support your racing program. With our program, national event victories will pay from $1,250 to $3,000 to win. Regional races will pay from $750 to $1,250 to win, and club races will pay $250 to win. Some of the series included are the SCUSA Winter Series and Pro Tour, the United States Pro Kart Series and Route 66 Series, the California and Texas Pro Kart Challenge, the Rock Cup Florida Winter Tour, Challenge of the Americas, Rock Festival, and Rock the Rio, the Gear Up F Series, and astonishingly, every single club across the United States. It's time to race for money, not trophies. Win on an Alpha Kart, and we'll support your program. For full details and requirements, head to damsinc.com. That's DAMZINC.com. Are you ready to get the 2018 season started? If you're like us, we're ready to get out of the snow and back to the track. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience. We can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. We specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, and of course, our championship-winning Merlin chassis. If you're ready to take your racing to the next level, come join us at Team FMS. We've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for many years. From providing a helping hand at a weekday test outing or club event, to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For 2018, we'll be attending the SCUSA Winter Series and Pro Tour, the United States Pro Kart Series, and the Route 66 Karting Series. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. Welcome back, EKN listeners, to our first podcast of 2018. Going to be part of the EKN Radio Network, which is going to launch here in January. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. David kind of quarterbacking this one here because he was the guy on the ground at Daytona International Speedway between Christmas and New Year's for the opening round of the WK Manufacturers Cup. David, let's jump into let's call it the paddock pass. What were things like in the paddock? What did you see? What was the atmosphere? I know there was some star power down there. What were your thoughts on paddock wise? How were things? The atmosphere in the pit area.
A lot of coats and a lot of winter hats.
So we're going to start with the who wore it well. It's like red carpet. A lot of coats.
We should have had our EKN gear down there because we would have sold out of all of the sweatshirts and the hats and the beanies and the toques and everything that was worn.
Yeah, well, like I said, watching it on through social media and listening to Eric talk about it on the EKN live broadcast, yeah, it was a little chilly, no doubt about it. Now, star power wise, it was kind of it's always cool to see the dads in there of some of the guys that have gone racing in the past. We had, of course, Juan Pablo Montoya and his son Sebastian were there. Emerson Fittipaldi was there as well. You know what, David, you and I have had the conversation many times about what karting is really all about. And it's an opportunity for parents, whether it's mom and dad or mom and son or mom and daughter, whatever it may be, to go to the track, work together. And, you and I, we both agree how much we love watching dad on the wrenches or mom on the wrenches because there's that connection. And it was, for me, it was cool. I wish I was there to see it. And I've seen it before, but to see Juan Pablo there with Sebastian getting a race win, that's really for us, I think, and you would probably agree what karting is all about in certain terms.
Well, yeah, and it's not like he's a dad paying somebody to do all the work. He's doing it himself. I mean, he was behind everything from mixing the fuel to getting registration set up, and he was kind of just all over the place, just like you would see with Bill Lemke or Eddie Jarzakrak. Yeah. Or Scott Kalish, or one of the many other father-son duos that we've seen come from the cadet ranks all the way up to the senior ranks. So it's funny to see Juan kind of in that position where I'm sure you see him, at the IndyCar races, kind of just as the driver, and the dad who's bringing along the kids to come enjoy the IndyCar races. But I mean, walking through the paddock at night, because again, it's night by 5:30, so everything's we got to be off the racetrack by about 5:45 before it's pitch dark. We do the podiums in the dark, and so after the podiums to walk around the paddock, and there he is under the easy up, with the light over the cart, still plugging away at it after their day one victory. I mean, that's what it's about, and he's put the time and effort into making Sebastian a good driver. And, he's out at the racetrack with him, I'm probably guessing every week, at least once a week. So.
Yeah, I love it. Now, another thing I really enjoyed watching, I think, and kudos to Margay for however they put it together, because karting, the Manufacturers Cup, the Margay Ignite program got a lot of exposure through the participation of Gabi Chavez, Juan Pedrahita, and Zach Veach. Of course, Veach and Chavez running in the Verizon IndyCar Series this year. I know in talking to Juan Pedrahita, he's very close to putting together a 500 ride for the Indianapolis 500. But they were all racing in the Margay Ignite Series. And of course, we talked, David, we talked about Gabi Chavez. You'd probably have to go back to his cadet days in terms of how to drive that car. But there was a guy that used to run the cadet class at the WK Manufacturers Cup. But to have these IndyCar drivers and Indy Lights drivers in the paddock and part of the action, man, did it ever develop a lot of marketing and PR in terms of Racer Magazine, whoever, IndyCar covering it. But it was kind of cool to have them probably under the tent in the Margay paddock as well.
Well, going into their big circus tent, because they had over 33 drivers, just the Ignite program, plus their regular Manufacturers Cup racers as well. So they had a lot of carts under their tent. It had kind of, they were in their own spot. So there was a lot of attention drawn that way, guys just kind of looking over. But it was good to see Gabi and Zach and Juan kind of talking with all the different drivers, going over setups and, how the cart feels. And, because as we said before, Gabi has a lot of experience in a cart. He's a Supernats winner. So that alone, puts him at a pedestal above a lot of other kart racers that we've had in the sport. So Gabi knows what he's talking about when he's talking about the cart. And he kind of compared it to racing a cadet kart where it had the low horsepower and the harder tires. So it took them back to that age. But they were very cordial with everybody, talked a lot with a lot of people. But the one thing that stood out was how competitive they were. This wasn't just like a corporate outing. You know what I mean? Where you go out there, you make some laps, you shake some hands, you kiss the babies, blah, blah. This was a competitive 3 days for them. They were there to win. There was no doubt about it. You could see it in their eyes that they were there to win. It was not, they wanted to have a good time and put on a good show, but they wanted to win. And you could see it in the way where they were driving too, because there wasn't a bumper that probably wasn't scratched up or whatever. Because I mean, they put it to him. And Zach had a great drive from behind on day 2, I believe, after his win on day 1. And Gabi put it to him in day 2, but they both wanted to win. And Juan, I'm not sure on his karting background. I know he's done some karting in his youth, but he was battling hard as much as the other two as well to be as quick as he possibly could.
Well, I'm not real surprised that they were pretty competitive. You got to remember the situation. We're not talking about a couple of 10, 15-year IndyCar veterans with locked and loaded rides, and they've been getting paid for the last couple of years. These guys with Gabi and Zach, and of course Juan trying to do the same thing, scratching for everything they can to go racing. They didn't fly down on a corporate jet. They didn't even fly down on a regular plane. These 3 guys hopped in the car and drove down by themselves. So, you think about driving from Indianapolis down to Daytona and then having to go back. If you didn't win, let's say they finished outside the top 10, that's going to be a pretty solemn drive on the way back home. But they win a couple of races, so they probably cruised home feeling pretty good about themselves.
Yeah, it was a road trip with some friends, but when they got there, it was all bets are off, and it was everyone for themselves, I think.
All right, David, give us an update on the overall atmosphere of the weekend. I know that WK had a new tire distribution program as well. The number system, I think, debuted as well. Give us some more insight on what happened paddock-wise and event-wise.
Yeah, the tire distribution is it's kind of very similar to what you see with SCUSA and what you see at Rotax and a lot of other national level events where, WK's within their entry fee is providing the race tires rather than what they've done for ever since the series has been going on, where you bring your own tires in and you just report which tires you're running. So it was kind of a curveball for everybody, something that a lot of the WK racers are not used to. But and they had some hiccups. WK did with the distribution of the tires, but they remedied that by the end of the day and end of the event. So that's something that we'll have to watch as the series goes on to see that they lock that system down. I know a lot of other programs have been doing it for so long that it's kind of like second nature to where they're able to do that. But and again, with the racers, it was kind of a 50-50. Some like it, some don't. It kind of removes the perception of, special tires, or this group's getting these tires and this group's getting worse tires and this and that, so it hopefully is going to remove that perception. And again, a lot of, talking with some shops are for it. Some shops are against it. Some shops liked, getting that extra revenue of selling the race tires, where some are just, they didn't want the hassle of it. They didn't want to pack the trailer full of tires for all their racers where they only had to worry about practice tires. So it's kind of a 50-50 right now. So I think we'll learn more about where we're at with that at the end of the year to see if it's a plus or if it's a minus.
Yeah, we'll make sure to check back in on that, David. And I mentioned as well a new number system making its debut. Do you want to give us some input on that?
Yeah, the WK is kind of following what SCUSA is doing and what other organizations have done with, you have your numbering systems, like say Micro is everything between 1 and 99. Mini Swift is 100 through 199. Very similar to what SCUSA has done, Rotax has done, Rock has done, a lot of the other organizations. So again, it's something new for WK racers. Some are used to it. Some weren't even ready for it. So some had to go buy some numbers and this and that. But, overall, when you're looking at it, you kind of, I forgot about it with all the Rotax races that we've gone to. And I forgot what it looks like to see, the similar numbers. So you kind of, there's 3 numbers you got to look at, but you kind of just focus on those last 2. So, and it makes it a little bit more visually nice, not nicer, but easier to look at. But, and then you also know, okay, well, that cart's in this class and that cart's in this class. So it's kind of like road racing, where we used to do that back in the day, where everything was numbered sequentially. But again, it's just something that racers will need to get used to. I don't think there were too many complaints, of maybe 1 or 2 about it, but other than that, it was. I think it'll be a win for everybody.
Let's look inside the paddock of the WK Manufacturers Cup opener at the Daytona International Speedway, part of WK Kart Week. David Cole giving us the update. Of course, David was trackside throughout the weekend, handling the EKN Live trackside coverage. Let's go to another break here, ladies and gentlemen. On the other side, we're going to have David talk racing. Let's find out who was fast. Let's find out who won some races. It'll be our race report from the WK Manufacturers Cup on episode 13 of the Debrief after these messages. Are you looking for a new kart shop? One that treats you like you're an important customer? If so, look no further than Acceleration Kart Racing. At Acceleration, customer service is number 1. We are a full-time karting business, not a hobby or an afterthought. We have all the products you're looking for, from kid karts to shifters, safety to speed. We strive to offer our customers the best products, prices, and service. At Acceleration Kart Racing, we're always here when you need something for your racing program. Located in Las Vegas, Acceleration is stocked with a wide range of products. We've been helping racers get the right parts for over 16 years. Acceleration has everything that a kart racer needs, from turnkey karts to safety equipment, engines, and more, stocking all of the leading kart racing brands. Here's a taste of the products that we carry every day. CRG, Tony Kart, Bennett, Rotax, Honda, Miami, MG Tires, Vinco, Bridgestone, Mojo, Alpine Stars, Sparco, Ribtech, and EBS. Tillett, Micron, Alfano, Bell, Arai, Zamp, KG, Sniper, SweetTech, and K&N. It doesn't matter where you live in the country. We will get you what you need so you can get back on the track. Acceleration has a sufficient supply of products to ensure that your order can be shipped the very same day. Our knowledgeable staff is available to help customers 6 days a week, and ordering online is open 24 hours a day at shopakr.com. For visitors and locals in the Las Vegas area, Acceleration has a large showroom full of the best kart racing products available. Come on in and check it out. Find out more about what Acceleration has to offer, visit shopakr.com. Again, shopakr.com. And make sure to sign up to be on our mailing list to receive the latest updates and promotions that we send throughout the season. Again, we're a one-stop shop. shopakr.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 13 of the EKN Debrief, our new, let's say, evolved podcast, more focused podcast. We're going to have a bunch of different shows this year on the new EKN radio network, which was going to debut later here in January. The Debrief is going to focus right in on looking at just a particular event that David and I, one or either of us, were at on that weekend. So we'll come back, we'll give you the debrief. And if you weren't able to be there, we're going to give you a lot of information to kind of bring you up to speed on what happened at the event. David, time to jump into the race report. Let's actually talk about what happened on the racetrack. I listened to a lot of the coverage as I was working here in the office throughout the event. And man, the racing just seemed like it was hardcore. There were some guys that stepped up and were able to kind of walk away and dominate as well, which is impressive. But overall, man, just some really good racing in all the categories.
It was very good. I think obviously the Ignite, some of the bigger classes were fun to watch because they're not necessarily racing for the lead, but a lot of the mid pack races that you saw that you like to see with the bigger fields. But there were a lot of like you said, guys who were able to walk away with victories that we weren't expecting. And one of them was Teddy Wilson in the Miami senior class. Basically came out of nowhere. We had no idea who he was. I had to start Googling his name, stuff like that. When all of a sudden I'm like, who is this guy? And on day one final, just popped up. A British driver came over, raced for the J Howard race MDD team, and just hadn't been in a kart in probably, I think he said 2 years, or give or take, a few months here or there, but. Was over here doing some car testing, and they convinced him to go to Daytona and race. And in his first race in the United States, he wins.
Way to add to the resume. Nicely done.
It wasn't a dominant win. It was just, again, the day one started with a wet track, so he qualified outside the top 10, and he just gradually made his way through the pre-final towards the front of the field, and then the final hit, and they hit the right setup. I mean, he was 0.2 quicker than McCusker towards the end of the race, and just was able to be dominant in the last few laps to walk away to victory. So it was a pretty impressive drive.
X30 Senior, as you said, David, 40 drivers. And, it was one of those events, as I said, while I was working here, and I'm sure everybody else who was watching Race Monitor, you're always scrolling up and down through Race Monitor to try to find out where some of these drivers are. You lose somebody. But as I scrolled down, there was just so many strong drivers. And, of course, AJ Myers for TB Kart USA, just one of the guys that has been really one of the premier drivers in America over the last, 5 years, probably really where he has really shown his way to be up front.
Yeah, Myers was on day two, was able to repeat as a victor last year, winning in Daytona, the first race. So 366 days instead of 365 days, he was able to repeat in Daytona. And again, he was kind of, he was fast on Friday, or practice day, sorry. And, but had some issues on day one that kept him out of the hunt, and then came back into day two, kind of the same thing where he was lurking there. And then boom, in the final, just everything clicked for him, and he took off and was determined not to fail this time. And was able to move to the lead and then take the victory.
I talked about the dominance as well, and again, listening in, you could hear based on some of the lap times of what guys were doing in splits. Man, Kardashian, let's talk about him a little bit. This kid has really developed into a pretty solid driver.
For sure. Last year he did a lot of double duty. I mean, he is a former WK champion, so he's been there before. But yes, I think he's getting a little bit more. He's getting more and more consistent. Like he's always been able to kind of throw down a lap here or there, but now I think he's understanding the racecraft, especially in the IME category. But he's getting more consistent with his driving. So a fourth on day one was phenomenal for him. But obviously, winning both Yamaha senior classes was good. But to add in another top 10 on day two in Miami, just kind of overall was a solid weekend for him. The Yamaha category, I mean, the wins there were just dominant. I mean, it was him and Pesek last year and Eves and a couple other drivers here and there that would always be battling for the win. But in Daytona, it was clearly just him in a different zip code, basically, if you want to say that.
David, you and I already mentioned talking about the IndyCar drivers who came down to run the Margay Ignite dash at Daytona, Gabi Chavez and Zach Veach. Great wins for both of them. But, the driver who was right in there as well, who's become really one of the top Ignite drivers in the U.S., I'll say in the U.S., but you can't even say that because she's from near Ottawa, Canada, up here in Ontario, Charlotte Lalonde. She was going for the double, and I was excited about the double, and that was winning at Indianapolis. She won the Battle of the Brickyard. Could she win the dash at Daytona as well? I think when it comes to the Ignite program, David, you and I talked, there's those kind of three big races, right? There's Rock Island, there's the Battle of the Brickyard, and there's Daytona. She was right in the hunt all weekend long to try to see if she could do that double and win at both of the two iconic racetracks for the IndyCar series and for, of course, NASCAR.
Yeah, Charlotte was there. She raced Veach throughout day one. They were both going back and forth, and then day two it was her and Chavez that were both back and forth. It was a spin in the day two final that cost her on the opening lap. She was starting outside, I believe, and just kind of got shoveled off into the marbles and spun around, and that cost her a chance at victory. But not only Charlotte was trying to do the double, but Jordan Bernlohr winning Rock Island this past year over myself and some other drivers. But I
was going to throw you under the bus, Dave.
I threw myself.
Good for you. You got out there in front of it. That's proactive. I'm impressed.
But Jordan, I mean, he is one of the top Ignite drivers. I think if you put Charlotte and him together, those are probably the top two that have done the Ignite program over the last couple of years. He won at Rock Island, and he was there again. He was there at Daytona last year, like running the normal 206 program with an Ignite kart, almost battling for the overall win. Then he just didn't quite have enough this time, but was on the podium both days, so it was a respectable showing for him. So he'll have to wait another year to try and do the double. If he can do it again.
Let's see if we can get. I was going to say, see if we can get Chavez and Veach to try the Brickyard to do the double, but no, we're at Iowa Speedway, I believe, that weekend, the same weekend as the Battle of the Brickyard. So we won't be able to get those boys to come out and play. Now, David, you talked about X30 Junior and being 40 drivers. There's a ton of talent in that category as well, especially down in Daytona. It was a good field of juniors. Talk about the guys that were able to step up there.
Well, as we talked about, Montoya was able to secure his first U.S. big national major victory in the junior ranks. He moved up a little bit last year and came to Daytona. Wasn't really one of the favorites coming out of qualifying. He looked like he was fast, but it was Zane Maloney, Tyler Maxson. Those were kind of the two guys that kind of stood out. But Montoya was able to fight his way through the pre-final, get closer to the front of the field, and then on main event time, it just, again, they found that they had the right setup. Was the quickest kart on the racetrack, and he was able to hold off Tyler Maxson in the CRG to score the victory. But Maloney was right there in the third spot. Margay's Spike Kohlbecker was fourth. So a lot of strong drivers right there. And then day two, we moved over it was kind of anybody's race to win, because it was kind of just all over the place with Maloney and Tyler Gonzalez. Those two were up front. They were kind of battling back and forth in the pre-final. Nothing too close, but in the final, they got really close at one time. Going into turn one, Gonzalez tried to pass, and Maloney just shut the door, and that was kind of the winning moment for Maloney, who won again last year. So now that's 2 wins in 2 years for the Barbados driver, who obviously shown a lot of who had a lot of impressive results this year in Europe, finishing 5th in the CIK World Championship.
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch, I think. He looked good at the Supernats as well in Vegas. So, yeah, I think we'll keep an eye on Maloney throughout the 2018 season. David, you talked about a sweep of Yamaha by Alex Kardashian. What about a couple of guys sweeping in KA 100 and Micro Swift? To be able to sweep, I think, at Daytona, that's an impressive feat. To be able to go in there against the competition that is there on a tough track, and I know it's tough to pass at Daytona, but man, a couple guys able to get sweeps of the weekend as well, right?
Well, that was one thing with Colin Neal in the KA 100 class. Nobody passed him. I mean, he led every session, every lap, even though how close it was. It was weird because the field was really close, and I think that's one of the cool things about this new KA 100 package. The engines are very close. It was at Daytona, it was 2 seconds slower than the next 30, and then 2 seconds faster than a Super Can. So it kind of had that middle ground it'll be interesting to see how it develops throughout the year and how many people jump on board with it. I know it's getting some West Coast attention right now. So we'll see if the numbers start increasing for that. But for Neil was on the VME kart. So a couple big wins for the VME kart. I don't think they've won at Daytona before. So, but Neil,
a new team too, right, Dave? New team, VMA Kart USA as well. That's pretty impressive for the brand new squad to come out and put a couple wins in.
And also Neil is a first year senior driver. So this was his first senior weekend, first time in the KA, winning both races. So it was pretty impressive to see him do that. But yeah, so it was a close field, but he was able to lead throughout the weekend. And then in Ben Mayer's situation, the Micro Swift. The Nitro kart in the cadet categories has been very strong and throughout 2017. And I think it's going to be just as strong in 2018. So he's one of the more experienced drivers in that micro field. So I think there you're going to see experience really shine throughout the year.
We got more race reports coming up from David Cole, who was trackside at the WK Manufacturers Cup opener at Daytona International Speedway in late December. We'll be right back, folks, here on the EKN Debrief. Stay with us. More to come here on EKN. In December of 1998, Superkarts USA launched the inaugural Florida Winter Tour. It was something new, and it caught the attention of many. The program has evolved over the years with different promoters and formats, but this year it will all return to its roots as SKUSA debuts their new Winter Series. It's Florida karting, SKUSA style. Superkarts USA Winter Series is a 2-weekend program designed to offer a fantastic tune-up schedule for stock Honda and IAME racers on the East Coast. Briggs 206 races will play a role in the action as well. SKUSA is offering a tremendous prize package for the top 3 in the stock Honda and IAME categories, including trips to the IAME International Final in France, entry and tire packages for the 2018 SKUSA Pro Tour, the Super Nationals, and the California Pro Kart Challenge. On January 12th to the 14th, the new series will debut at AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex with a double-header at the upgraded facility, which has been the home to so many great winter events over the years. SKUSA will return to the beautiful Ocala Grand Prix circuit on February 9th to the 11th for the double-header finale. If you're focusing on a SKUSA Pro Tour effort in 2018, or you just want to get out of the cold, get the season started off right at the Superkarts USA Winter Series. Registration is open now. Warm weather, great facilities, top competition, and the same SKUSA product that is the benchmark for the sport. For more info, head to superkartsusa.com. Welcome back to the race report section of our EKN Debrief. episode number 13, a new focused debrief that will look at one race and one race only. David Cole giving us the insight on what happened down at Daytona. David, more to come. Let's talk about Yamaha Sportsman. What do you got there?
Well, that class was won by two different drivers. Connor Zilic, a Rock Cup International Final champion, and a Super Nationals winner. So Zilic is probably among the top cadet drivers in the country, if not the world, if you want to say that.
Yeah, true enough.
But he was able to get away in the day one final. That again, this is the Yamaha Sportsman category, very close with a lot of good drivers in there. Day two, it was Zilic and Logan Adams that were kind of locked up and got away from the field, but Adams was able to prevail and keep Zilic at bay, taking the checkered flag for his first win for the 2018 season. I know he wants to win the championship this year. His brother Garrett won it in 2017, so I think they'd like to see a Adams back-to-back championship for those two.
Continue on. Let's have a look at Yamaha Junior. We talked about the Yamaha categories, David. You said there were some solid numbers, even though not up in the 40s where we saw the IAME categories, but the Yamaha class did have still some good numbers, always some good racing. Just a lot of great young talent in the Yamaha category.
Well, the Yamaha category definitely provides an opportunity to see some of this younger talent develop. We're seeing that with Caden Wharf. This is now his second year in the junior ranks. We always saw him as a top cadet racer, so now he's kind of getting his feet wet in the junior ranks, and now he's able to get his first junior win in the Yamaha category. So it was no easy feat because he had a big group behind him, including defending champion Tyler Ferris. And a couple other drivers that were up front with them. But then day two, we saw Spike Kohlbecker and the Margay able to get away from all the battling for the second spot and earn his first win since the 2015 Kart Week event. So, again, we're gonna see a number of drivers step up and win in this category like we did last year. And see a number of drivers battle for the championship when we come to the end.
With all the races we go to, David, I find it. So I feel like we're blessed to be able to watch these young drivers develop. We see these kids come through the cadet categories. Now we'll call them micro and mini, whatever it may be. You see these kids start kind of working their way through the ranks, and you can kind of pick out some of the ones that get that feel for racecraft early. It's not so much about somebody making a move and they're trying to block or they're coming over to pinch down. It's the guys that really understand the racecraft, that they don't need to make a pass here. If they get passed, it's okay. They can come back. I love seeing that racecraft kind of develop. And the two kids that were able to win in the mini Swift category, I think are two that we can definitely put that tag on. They're really getting a good feel of racecraft and, not surprising, able to find their way to the front of the pack in Daytona.
Yeah, among them are the two winners in the mini Swift category, Mateo Rubio Luengo and Brent Cruz. Mateo, a micro graduate, we saw him move up last year at the USPKS race at the finale because he already clinched the micro championship. So he's got a lot of racing under his belt. We saw him at the IAME International Final, battling with Cruz, who actually won the event. So to have two world title winners at the WK Daytona Kart Week was pretty cool. Not only having the IndyCar drivers, but world karting title winners as well too. So, there, other than these two, I mean, there were, you had Zilic, you had a lot of Logan Adams again as well in both the Yamaha and Mini category. A lot of young drivers that definitely have the potential to move up through the karting ranks and into the motorsports world. But the Mini Swift was 45 drivers on the field. So it was a lot. There's a lot of action going on. And I think Mateo had the opportunity to win both races, except he had a penalty in the pre-final, which took him from the pole position all the way down to, I believe, 34th. Yeah. So he had the opportunity, but unfortunately that penalty cost him and put him in the back of the main event grid. But we did see it was a pretty amazing drive by Jeremy Fletcher, coming from 33rd all the way to 4th. And probably if he had a couple more laps, might have been able to battle for the podium.
That's pretty solid for him to be able to work his way up there like that. I think he had a pretty solid run coming through at the Super Nationals as well. So a couple of good runs for Fletcher. And, we talk a lot about the fact that sometimes it's better for a young driver to start at the back and have to actually pass some guys to get their way back to the front as opposed to just starting pole and running away with it. I think a lot more development when you get put in the back like that and you really have to pick and choose your passing. So there's your race report here on the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving you the full rundown. WK Manufacturers Cup, David, not getting going again until March 23rd, 24th, 25th. You'll be there at GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. Always attractive race as well. Lots of great stuff on the docket right now. Let's have a quick look at the race calendar for January. Race calendar brought to you by 3G Kart Racing, the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour winning kart shop and race team located in Katy, Texas. January 12th, 13th, 14th, just over a week away, the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. The inaugural Winter Series gets fired up at the AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex presented by MG Tires. Of course, that's in Homestead, Florida, part of that 2-weekend series. And then 2 weeks later, let's go from one coast to the other, Florida, all the way over to Arizona to the Phoenix Kart Racing Association facility, the PKRA track, for the Challenge of the Americas, Andy Saisman's program. That's January 26th, 27th, 28th. And David, that's going to be interesting because a brand new engine package coming out. That's a series that Andy has run for so many years so successfully, which has really developed a loyal following. Just such a great time. Whether you're racing, whether you're a family member, whether we're there covering it, just the atmosphere that Andy presents is one that draws people to come and have a good time. It goes from Rotax to Rock. They're going to have some Briggs 206 again, but David, it's going to be a Rock Cup event. This is going to be interesting to see what kind of numbers we get, but there is a pretty solid little Rock kind of, let's say, movement happening on the West Coast.
Well, not only that, I believe he's getting a lot of attention for the Briggs categories, the senior and junior categories. Guys coming down from Canada, guys coming from Colorado, Pacific Northwest. So it should be a pretty good time in Phoenix. Yeah,
I know that the guys from K&K West, the West Coast Canadian shop for the K&K chassis, which is very big in Ontario and the East Coast of Canada, they're going to be coming down to Phoenix as well. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a pretty solid Briggs category there. It should be fun. I know that we're looking forward to getting there, as we always are. I'll be heading down to the SCUSA Winter Series race, leaving the next Thursday to be there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, both of those events part of the EKN Trackside Live Tour here for 2018. Anywhere between, I think, 22 and 26 races on the tour this year. We are, David, stepping up into serious rock band status. We're putting in the mileage this year.
This one goes to 11.
The answer is none more black. David, let's wrap things up. Final thoughts from the WK Manufacturers Cup race. You can give us your full thoughts on the road races. Well, I know you got a chance to go over to talk to some of the road race guys. I still say, when it comes to karting, I love, we both love all the different kinds of karts, but for sheer sex appeal, a badass lay down, open kart. That kart of Rick Folks's looks so good on the track, so good in pictures as well. That thing is just an absolute rocket.
Sexy, baby. Yeah, definitely.
It is sexy. Give me your thoughts on the weekend.
Yeah, I think their numbers were about the same as last year. Again, it's excuse me. It's it's just like anything in karting. It's about getting new people out there, and especially in road racing, getting new people out there is the only way it's going to grow. They're starting, talking with Keith Freber of Margay, he's one of the younger ones there. That says a lot because he's been in the sport a long time. So I think you're starting to see a little bit more with the 206 package is able to come over and hit the long tracks. So that's kind of getting a little bit of new blood in. Obviously, you still have the tag categories. You can come over and race those. The shifter packages are there. We're starting to see a lot of the older guys racing the road racing in shifter karts. It's a little bit easier for them rather than trying to bang the 6 gears, busting up their ribs and just wearing their bodies down to where they can't even go to work on Monday. So,
hey, Dave, the funny thing is it's a cross section too, right? I saw that. I think Stephen Flatt won one of the shifter races, but it was great to see Tiffany Fisher back out there racing as well. There's a mom out there just busting the boys big time.
Yeah. She said she had the ability to win. They kind of missed the setup a little bit because of the practice and being rained out. So they didn't have much time to do all the testing they wanted to do. But yeah, it's moms are racing, old grandpas are racing. Young kids are racing. They brought the cadets over for the second year in a row, so they saw a lot of kids that normally race on big tracks were able to hit the high ranks in their 206 carts. So it still has that cool factor. It really does. But again, talking with people on the sprint track, it's those walls. It scares the crap out of them, and I just. I understand it, but I don't understand it at the same time. I don't want to hit the wall either, but the object is not to hit the wall, but to go fast and have fun. And, so it's still something where, us in the sport, everybody in the sport is still trying to understand how do we get more people in, and it's working, but it's not working.
I still say of all the times I've gone racing, you look at some of the events that I look back at, they're the ones that I absolutely loved. My first shifter kart race, my first ever race ever was massive, of course. Got a chance to run. My first time I ever raced a street circuit, the Barrie Grand Prix, was big. The first time I ever ran a shifter at the Florida Winter Tour. First time I ever ran dirt at the Speedway, at the Municipal Stadium and Kart Week. But I still will go back to that first time I ever ran a road race in my CTS 125 shifter at Mid-Ohio in the rain. I think it was the first day. Oh my God. It was the most fun. If you have a shifter kart and you haven't road raced yet, do yourself a favor. I don't care if you lift in some of the corners because it's too fast. Just get out there and enjoy yourself because it's so
those on the West
fun.
Coast. Go to the Mazda Laguna Seca race coming up in March.
Yeah.
Tom Kutcher of SCUSA went there. He said he loved it. He'd go there every year. That there's sand pits there. You won't hit the wall. You'll hit the sand pit first. But speaking of sand, I was going to say, I was kind of going to go into the dirt a little bit. The last year's track looked horrible. Bumps and it just didn't look like it was a fun track to drive. But this year it looked smooth. The WK put a lot of time and effort into making that track raceable because again, they're the only ones on the track ever. AMA no longer uses it, so the karting week is the only time it's used for racing. So they put a lot of time and effort into that, and it looked the part because it looked like it was a really good raceable track. And the numbers weren't there this year for some reason. Might have been because of the change from Maxxis tires to Vega tires, or it just might be something else. I'm not sure. So again, that's another area of the event that needs to improve.
Well, nice to know, David. You gave us the positive that the track looked good, but you're right. We, in the limited time I had when we had our magazine Speedway USA, there's always been the tumultuous and chaotic nature of speedway racing, depending on the tire situation, tire prep, whatever it may be. They've always battled back and forth. It's been tough that they have had trouble just kind of settling in. But again, as you said, tires so much a part of any kind of dirt program that when you're swapping over from different tire manufacturers, it can cause a little bit of chaos. But let's wrap this up. David, thank you so much for giving us and our EKN listenership a really good feel of the action that we saw at this year's Manufacturers Cup event, and of course some insight into the dirt program and the road race program as well at WK Kart Week, one of the long-standing marquee events in North American karting of when karters invade the Daytona International Speedway. I still remember when I first started looking at karting books back in the library. Those of you who are young and never been to a library, that's where we went to look at books. I remember thumbing through the old kart racing books to learn more about it and seeing all these pictures of guys running at Daytona. I thought that was just absolutely cool. Well, that's going to cap things off for this debrief. Ladies and gentlemen, great to have you with us. We are starting our 2018 podcast program off in style. Of course, this will all be part of the EKN Radio Network. We'll get this through Podbean and out onto iTunes. Subscribe to iTunes. Make sure you get all the podcasts. In the future, our podcast, the first opportunity to listen, will be part of the EKN Radio Network. There'll be some set times, probably 2 or 3 times a day. When we have that new podcast playing, you'll be able to go online on the website and listen to it right straight through on the website. It'll be a 24/7 karting radio station. And very soon we'll have an app as well that you'll be able to listen on your phone. So just a great opportunity for us to do some stuff here with the radio component, the audio component of ekartingnews.com. but we hope you enjoy it. Do us a favor. When we post this up, get on there and comment below it. We want to hear your comments, topics you might want to hear about in some of our podcasts, guys that we should interview. Take the time to comment after we post this up on Facebook, because that'll be a perfect place for us to be able to go and get your input on the podcast, on the EKN radio network, you name it. We'd love to get your feedback. We need that so that we can evolve this component of EKN to make sure our listeners are happy. So, folks, again, on behalf of David Cole, this has been Rob Howland. Thank you very much for joining us on episode 13 of The Debrief.